Good evening. Welcome to the Stockbridge Planning Board meeting of June 7th. It's 6:30. I'd like to open the meeting. This is our reconstitution meeting of the planning board for this year. So I would like to thank and recognize Bill Vogt for being our chairman last year and for being on the board and all the time he has spent. It was a difficult year to be our leader, but, you know, I will miss Bill and he did a good job. And I'd like to welcome and congratulate Kate and Liz Wheeler to our planning board. Kate again, and Liz as a first year planning board member for 5-year terms. And I'd like to start, if anybody needs to say anything else along those lines, and then we will have a new board vote.
I would just say thank you to Bill as well. I think it was a bit of a difficult period to sort of lead us through, but I think he did a great job. And I thank him for his service and congratulate him on his exit. He may be the lucky one, but no, I really wanted to say thank you to Bill for his service.
Having not been part of one of these meetings before, I wanted to ask what our sort of procedure is. I mean, it's not really a nominating, or we just
Our procedure is I ask for someone to be nominated for the chair position, the vice chair, you know.
Okay.
And can be one or more, and then we vote, and that's
okay.
Who the new chair is.
And then we'll figure out what the slate looks like, and we'll take.
There isn't a slate, it just comes from the floor.
Right, okay. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a nominating committee.
No,
That's like
but
it's done.
we just do it, yeah.
We just do it.
Okay.
So if you'd like to volunteer, no.
Well,
So
are you entertaining?
everything else, anyone else want to say anything before we?
I would just say that it would be nice if we could have Jen just send Bill a note from all of us.
Oh, definitely.
Thanking him for his service, and we appreciate his time on the board.
Great idea.
Thanks, Gary.
Yes.
All right. At this time, I would open the floor for nominations for the chair of this committee for another year.
Well, I'll go ahead and start out by nominating Kate. So, there you go.
Kate's been nominated. Do I do a second? Is that how we do
Or you
this?
can
So
just
is there a
ask if there's
second?
anybody
for
If
this?
we have enough people to do seconds.
Yeah, you can
And
do
then
that, a
ask for any
second.
other
Yeah, and then
second.
ask for any other nominations, yeah.
Kate's nomination.
I'll second it.
Is there another nomination?
I nominate Gary to be chairman.
Oh, thank you, but I prefer not to, but I appreciate it.
Gary.
Any other nominations? So all those in favor of Kate as our new chair for next year, say aye, please.
Aye.
Oh, you need to call.
As long as I just wanted to see if everybody
Oh,
was saying.
I think it's unanimous.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And Kate, you said aye too, right?
No one asked me if I wanted to do it, but I said, I yes.
We have a nomination for vice chair.
I would nominate Gary for vice chair.
I would second that. Any other nominations?
Gary, are you willing to be vice chair?
I would do it, yes.
Great.
Ah, good.
All those in favor of Gary as vice chair for our next year?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Non-voters.
Too late, Gary. You did the aye first.
I would lose anyway.
And a nomination for clerk of our committee. And I'd like to nominate Wayne.
Second.
Any other nominations for clerk? In that case, all those in favor of Wayne as clerk of our board for next year?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Great.
Wayne, you're on, once again. You do such a good job then,
That's a big job.
yes,
You know, I understand it's taken on a lot of responsibility, but
all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Thanks, everyone. So up next on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting from May 3rd. Did everybody have a chance to review those?
Yep.
I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion?
Oh, I can't vote anyway because I wasn't here.
Did you read them?
Yeah, I read
I mean,
them.
did you watch
I watched the video.
Oh, you can vote. You can vote, so that will give us a quorum.
Oh,
I don't know. I think I got beat to the punch.
I think it should be Carl, because I don't think Liz was here
Right.
at that
Oh,
point.
I can't make,
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Yeah, Carl was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Great.
I was not here either,
You'll-
Jennifer.
And Liz was.
Okay, up next, we have a signed bylaw request. And Jennifer, are you gonna, can you share that out or? Okay, you're not sharing stuff out? Okay, so are you Mr. White? Okay, great. So, yeah. Do you want to come on up and tell us what you have?
Pull up a chair.
So we're a construction company and we're new in town. We formerly in the town of New Marlboro. And we stumbled on this location and thought it was a great central location for the people that work in the office. We have 3 employees full-time and myself in and out of the office. We moved into Andy Talbot's former space at 44 Main Street, next to the new chocolate shop. So we propose to put a sign up. Everybody's complaining that we don't have one. This is our construction signs, and our trucks look like this. And I don't know if it's too loud, but that would be ideal for us. There's a sign that says 7 Arts Building in the center. We chose to make it a little bit smaller than that one, so that would still be prominent. And
So, this falls under section 6.8.8 of our sign bylaw. And it's a permanent sign in the business zoning district. And it's approximately 13 square feet. So in our sign bylaw, you will see that this is for a multiple establishment location. So Mr. White is allowed to have a sign not to exceed 16 square feet in area. So this meets our bylaw. And
Bylaw says nothing about colors. I mean, it says
No, we
no
don't.
neon.
I don't know, I just don't want to be too loud, but I mean, that's our company, that's what our trucks look
Yeah.
It's
like.
louder than the winter enclosure on the Red Lion.
I like all.
it does, our bylaw does speak to moving parts and flashing things and like that, but this is fine.
Yeah, this is 17 inches tall and 110 wide, which is a little under 10 feet, so.
Yeah, you're fine. You're within the bylaw, so. Any comments or?
No, welcome.
I like all the color and it
Yeah.
looks nice.
I'm glad you're in there.
It's a little bit of a different font. It's been our company font for a long time, and, yeah.
Are you a builder, Michael?
Pardon?
You a builder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in business for almost 40 years, in Berkshire County, but we've been south of here. We were formerly in the old schoolhouse in this village of New Marlboro near the old Inn on the Green.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So beautiful.
Yeah, and it was just kind of far out, It was nice because we could get a trailer truck into our yard, but here we just have everything delivered to the job site, so it's been working out okay.
So you won't have any construction trucks
No.
at this area?
A couple of pickups once in a while in front. Most of our guys go right to the job. We don't meet there in the morning or anything like that,
Okay.
But we do have a few people in the office that, we have some parking in the back. We have one space in the back and the other people park in the front.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is just, for this sign.
Yeah.
Sign permit. So
Yes.
do I have a motion to,
I move we accept the sign as presented.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you all set? Good luck.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good luck.
Welcome to Stockbridge.
Okay.
You too.
Next,
Thanks.
I don't know why. I
our
printed
town
that too.
administrator, Mike Canales.
I guess I went out last week and figured out.
A lot of ink.
No.
Hi, Mike.
Leave the chair like that.
Okay,
Here to discuss the planning position.
yep,
So just to update the board on where we currently stand. So there were two articles for $40,000 over the last 2 years for planning services for the planning board. There's currently $45,471 remaining. We have a couple more bills, at least two more bills that'll be coming from Berkshire Regional Planning for May and June. And those should be right around $5,000. So we should end up with about $40,000 remaining in the articles that were adopted at town meeting. So this leaves us with a couple options of what this board would like to do in the upcoming year. One is not to use a planner at all. The other option is to continue with a planner 1 day a week. Or the third option could be that we carry over the money and use it for specific projects that you want and just contract out for those specific projects if you're looking at something such as, if it was just ADU and you just wanted that, just contracting with somebody with a cost to develop that. So those are some of the ways that you could look at using the money. How you guys want to use it? Do you want to continue using it? And what type of role do you want to use that money in? So really, the articles were for the planning board, so ultimately it's your decision. I know we've used it for something Carol will be finishing up is a parking study and presenting that to the select board at our last meeting in June. But it can be a planner, can tackle all types of issues, but it still should come from this board. How you want to continue with that.
Has the person, have you been busy 1 day a week? Has it been, the time been filled so that it's useful to have that continue? I mean, there's enough there for you?
I think that overall there is enough work depending on the project. So right now, we're going to finish up the parking with a recommendation to the select board as to what a parking plan would look like for downtown going forward. But then really what projects are we placing next would be the question, because what's going to replace that? I know that in addition to just in the office, having somebody from Berkshire Regional Planning, they could run things by their traffic engineer and others when they were looking at how to lay out either Hero or Park Street, where the select board had asked for the final two to be considered. And then we'll be making the single request of which one we thought stepped forward, but we were able to use the resources of Berkshire Regional Planning for that. But once that drops off, the only one remaining is the one you have right now, which is the ADU. And then what else are you looking to do? Just like I said.
I would like the idea of finishing up the ADU that we started in on, separating that out from the multifamily, because I found that some of the paperwork that we received for tonight's meeting to be extraordinarily confusing in that it's all pushed together. So I like the idea of sort of taking a more focused and systematic approach and finishing up that ADU and, with that experience behind us, then, and I do, even though the wording is already in our table of uses, I do think there is some value to having a narrative in the bylaw itself. So, that's my thinking, is that if we could focus on that, finish that up, and then reassess, is that possible?
It is. The main thing I have to do is reach out to Berkshire Regional Planning on how am I contracting with them. Under the last 2 years, it's been 1 day a week. And of course, we had gaps in there because we had a planner that stepped away and then another person that came in. So is that then a decision of this board that you'd like me to just reach out and say, we'd like X hours to finish the ADU? Do we want to have the person in 1 day a week? How do you want to structure this going forward?
I'd like to hear from Gary.
I think that we need the sign by law dealt with.
Finished up, yeah.
Would you make, I mean, do you want to prioritize that over the ADU?
No, I think you should finish that. And then I think that if I had a preference, I would like to see the sign by law
So the sign by law first?
improved.
And then?
No, ADU first. I mean, we already got that going.
Okay,
And then I would like to do the sign by law so that it's more,
it's got some problems.
yeah.
Yeah, but we got a lot done with it, actually, and I think that we have Phil's work. So Kara could pick up with where we left off there. What do others think?
Is there a price for each project that we have? So the sign by law would cost this much for Berkshire Planning?
Well, part of it is we don't know how much exact time. And some of that I will push back. It goes back to how this board,
I have to.
yeah, I mean, if I could, I had spoken to Kate earlier about the fact that we have had 5 different planners that have looked at a bunch of things that we've been working on.
It was pretty labor.
And in the end, not much has advanced. And sometimes you got to look at the fact that, it's not an issue with necessarily the planners. It might be more of an issue with how we're handling it.
Oh, it is.
So,
Yeah, no, I agree.
so how can we become focused and accomplish in a very, I think you stated that, in a systematic way. We talked about it before, but it still became a back and forth. And I know before when Bill had said, we did have the additional, Patrick had submitted another piece talking about, and that got mixed in, and it's like, no, we need to keep the focus. How can we keep the focus, move it forward? So if we did contract with, say, Berkshire Regional Planning, it'd have to probably either be X hours to devote to this and then re-enter into an agreement. It could be just 1 day a week and they just continue to plug along, and then add the sign in. But then that goes back to, right, are we filling enough for a year's worth of work? If we don't become focused, it probably is. If we become focused, then hopefully, these type of rights probably shouldn't take more than maybe like 3 months.
Right.
It's a very,
So how about this? You handle the money part.
yeah.
And keep me posted, and I'll keep everybody else posted. And I propose that we work on the ADUs, and really, as we're working on that, really focus on being effective in terms of our use of time, focused and organized, and give ourselves a time frame maybe, so that, we're just work through it as, doing a good job, but as quickly as possible.
Right. But I still need to know what I'm reaching out to Berkshire Regional Planning for. So it could be a bunch of options. Either I can reach out to them and say, we'd like a bank of X hours. We'd like one person for a year. We'd like one person 1 day a week, one person for six months at 1 day a week. How do we feel like this should be? Do we think after the sign, we can find some other things if we were to become efficient and be able to move these forward? Could we find other rewrites that we think we need to start working on?
Oh, yeah.
I bet we,
So I would suggest that we start with 6 months, 1 day a week, and I want to hear from everybody else on your thoughts on that.
I would like to see things taken one at a time and finished up and done.
Yeah.
That's what we haven't done. And I know the ADUs is one, and I know the sign is another, but I think there are
cottage
other
area.
issues that we've started, and, the whole business about the cottage era thing is still
Yep.
unfinished. And I'd like to do one thing at a time and finish it. And I think I would be for somebody working a day a week all year. And I think we'll have stuff for them. I think that's what I would be.
There were also, thinking back to our zoning bylaw review meetings, there were a bunch of just sort of technical things in definitions and, I mean, I don't know if I can even put my hand on my notes from all that, but,
I have it all.
yeah, I mean, and they were not big deals, but it was sort of like stuff that it's like, oh, like this sentence is confusing. I mean, I was talking about definitions of heights and building heights and stuff like that,
We had talked about incorporating pictures.
Yeah.
We have a definition for height, building height,
Right.
but, maybe making that, highlighting that more. So I don't know. So what do others, I mean, so Marie.
And I thought it was
says a
absurd that
year.
we had-
Gary, what do you say?
I like the idea of keeping somebody for a year.
A year. Carl, what time frame would you say?
I think that's okay. It depends
Okay.
on how that works out in terms of, Mike, you can speak to, how that fits in with the money we've got. I mean, I don't think we should be asking. for
No, you
more
wouldn't
money.
have to ask for any more money. You'd actually still have a surplus at the end of next year.
Great, okay. Well, in that case, that's fine. I'm sure we can.
Does that money carry over if it's not used?
Yeah, it's an ATM from a town meeting, so it's not linked to a single budget year. But if you guys were to decide not to, then we close it out at the end of the year. But if you're deciding to continue with using it, then we'll continue using it.
Wayne, what do you think for time frame?
As long as, I have difficulty anticipating, the year, how it'll be used. 40,000 is a lot of money, but if it's useful time and there's enough there for that person, I think it would be good to have that continuation.
Okay.
It'll be in the mid 20,000 range.
Well, that's good.
You okay with that? Liz?
I'm fine with the year.
Okay. Nancy?
I'm fine with the year too. I'd like to see, like you had suggested, if we have a time frame. So we're working on ADUs and we have to have, like a deadline. I have this open-ended thing
Yeah.
that goes on and on, but I think you're right. We need
But I think it starts with a focus.
yes.
It starts with a specific need.
Right.
If we're bringing something to discuss, first of all, I want to make sure that there's a problem.
Exactly.
Why are we looking at this?
Yep.
Or are we just talking about it because Great Barrington's talking about it? That's what I just want to make sure that our time is well spent from the get-go and that it's a needed conversation.
I'd also like for us to really be clear on what our goals are.
Yes.
So, so we have that, we keep that in mind as we're working along. So, okay, so it sounds like, do I need to do a motion or?
If you would, just a
Okay.
motion to continue to
All right,
contract.
okay, so do I have a motion to continue contracting with Kara Farrell?
So moved for one person,
1 day.
1 day a week.
For you?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to work with us for one day?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good, all right. So, so
I'll
with
take care of
that,
the rest.
I think that the last thing on the agenda, I mean, if you could separate those things out before we, I don't really feel that we need to discuss it at this point because it needs to be separated out. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, or we can just go over the PowerPoint, but that really can be saved for.
Thanks, Michael.
Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
If you want to go to the PowerPoint, but I really think we need to separate it out. And so why don't you go over the PowerPoint quickly? And,
I didn't print it out.
Yeah, I mean, it really just goes into, the table that you were talking about, Kate,
right.
and the bylaw.
Right,
That's
but
really it.
we want to separate, we've got
Separate
this
those two
wording and
themselves.
track changes, and this thing is dense.
Yeah, it is
So
very nice.
it's hard for someone who's used to it. I'm trying to imagine what it's like for someone who isn't. So I'd love to get that separated out so we can then, so if you want to just do a quick overview.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's not get bogged down into.
No, we won't, we won't.
I ended up printing.
Hi, Liz, I'm Kara. Hi.
We're just focusing on the ADUs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got on top, it's the 6-7 draft bylaw.
Oh, I have 5-3.
It doesn't have track changes, so it's a clean copy, just like that, yep. So that's really just as clean as it can be right now
Right,
with,
okay, read it.
with the drafts that have been done. So,
Okay.
I'm not asking for any board decisions, obviously.
Okay.
That's where the bylaw is now. So that'll be somewhat of probably a jumping off point moving forward. But again, that's a decision of the board.
I'll put red in it.
Here, this one, Murray, do you have this one?
Yeah, I didn't have,
No, I
I don't
didn't
have
get
a
that one.
6-7, I have.
Do you have
5-3.
Yeah, I didn't see a.
Yeah.
Let me put it on my laptop.
7, that's,
I gave Marie my extra, well, my only,
I got it on my laptop.
Jennifer sent it through the email.
or just pull it up on the,
first.
Yeah.
Oh, a while
You got
ago,
a, oh, you got a 6-7.
yeah.
June 1st. I missed
So, yeah, that's basically what I'll say about it tonight. That's where I am with it.
Right.
And you've got the, the table and et cetera, as well, but we'll spread out our mission on that and go from there. So,
It's okay.
It's fine.
We're here. We're
Yeah.
fine. Thank you.
I read it before, but I
Yeah.
it's not earth shatteringly.
I don't have.
I know it's surprising, but I actually do have a copy.
Nice job.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
So, so why don't we, let's see, there's so many drafts. What do you all think about, talking about our goals for this bylaw right now? So that, Kara has that information. And, in looking at her PowerPoint, the goal that we started out with was providing more affordable housing. And one concern I had was that now at the last meeting, three were absent. So, but at the last meeting, the 50% requirement for affordable housing was removed. So, that's something that, I think we should talk about. What are our goals here with? So right now in the purpose, if you take a look at that.
And are they able to do these things already? Is that something, the purpose and intent,
For an ADU,
right?
those are compiled from existing bylaws. Are you talking about, can they be done?
Can they be done here right now? Or does this have to be an official bylaw for folks to do what's described here? I mean, can they already do this?
It's
Right.
already in our table of
Right.
uses.
It is in the table
It's
of
just
uses.
not, it's just, there's no narrative to match it. And there's also sort of this weird administrative thing where it's cut off.
Oh, yeah. in the
So
table.
that it's not necessarily going to be obvious to somebody looking at the table of uses. So one thing I would say, could you, potentially, Kara, could you check to find out in terms of affordable housing, in terms of meeting those state mandates, that we currently meet with a little over 10%, I think. If we are including affordable housing, which was in our existing bylaw already, the 50%. So I'll just put it right out here now. I support keeping that because I've just spent a couple months talking to people and I do hear from people about their concerns about.
So what does that mean? Kate, tell me.
So it means that 50% of the units that are rented as accessory dwelling units need to meet the affordable guidelines, which are in our bylaw. And I think that's tied to, Mike or Kara, you can answer this question, tied to sort of state guidelines, right?
How do you regulate that?
You don't, you know.
I mean, how do you say in the first 6 months of the year, you have 50% of
How do you enforce it?
Yeah, I mean, how do you,
So I think that, you know, right now, like if you look at either Lennox or Great Barrington, I forget which, or did you have in here wording on a yearly basis that there, an affidavit needs to be provided
I
that,
did in one of the drafts.
So-
I know that's an option that, I believe it is Lennox, and it's sprinkled throughout the county, and I'm sure the state,
can you look
that-
into that
the affidavit
Yeah.
language.
But so the
Yeah.
50% is for the whole
for the town?
town. So
For the
if we
town.
have 6 applications for affordable dwelling units, we want to make sure that 3 of those
Right.
are, yeah.
The affordable.
Who gets the unlucky card of being the least expensive one?
Yeah,
So you mean
guy on the
affordable?
end, yeah.
right.
So really good question. I was looking at, what wording was I looking at? And I was reading about this today and another thing, so 3 things to check, Kara. One is, would the 50% go towards our 10%, you know, our housing
10%
affordable quota? You know, how would you enforce that percentage? And then, is there a way to incentivize that so that, to Wayne's point?
All right.
Does that make sense, Wayne?
I'm just mulling it over and saying, so I apply because I want my mother to go into this unit, but for whatever reason, she can't, and it can be to somebody else. Am I going to be regulated on the amount of money that I can charge for that unit?
And that's my understanding. Yeah.
I think that's where the affordable part
Yeah.
comes in.
Well, and I'm just trying to think that through and say,
You're going to charge your mother?
That's a separate discussion.
headaches I ever gave her, but
You're my.
so trying to think about that and how that number comes to be.
Yeah, it's problematic a little bit, yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be at the short end of the stick and, oh, we have 6 apps.
Yeah.
You're one of those.
You're the last one,
3, so you don't qualify.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to understand how that would work and
Yeah.
if we want to have that as part of it.
Yep.
Where else can you gain your affordable? But I guess we don't want to go down
Let's
that.
focus on it.
And I know that 50% was in there before me. That's in there now, so I'm wondering what research was done.
Well, that
For-
predates, yeah, that goes back.
Yeah, it does go, have something, so.
Right, because, so I always preach to the staff that whenever we're dealing with anything from regulatory to come thinking of rules, regulations, whether it's back for whatever, how do you verify? How do you enforce? It's great to put things on paper. If you can't do those 2 things,
Right.
why even do it?
Yeah,
So, right, it becomes one of these things. So is it if there's not a deed restriction on this ADU preventing it from being set, and now you sell your home, next person buys it, they want to rent it out for, how is it enforced? Right, becomes a question. And, you know, you see where towns have put language in there, but then it pretty much becomes unenforceable. So then sometimes I feel like, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound mean, but it's a feel-good thing. Oh, it's in a
Yeah.
bylaw.
Yeah.
Half of it's affordable. Okay, but how do we actually, you might be able to do that in the initial, but how do you maintain that? Is it realistic? Right. 3 people can have an ADU unit that they could charge whenever, but then the other 3 are restricted too, right?
Okay, so can you look into that, Kara?
It does feel like something sort of more across the board would be would be a little bit easier too.
Maybe a percentage over the year, or I don't know. I don't know how other towns
I
would.
mean, we have various definitions of what affordable means, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think there is something official, right? There is a.
there is.
Yeah, you've got that.
Definition.
It's based on
80%.
income.
Yeah.
Berkshire Regional Planning actually has that information on
Yeah.
Right.
what's considered, would meet the affordable benchmark.
You have that for stock.
Bylaw too.
Yeah, it's,
Would that be something you could
look up
look
the,
up? Like what affordable means here?
No.
Do you have it, like, as each town has its own?
It's not the town.
It's-
Oh,
broken, yeah, it's broken down to the county, but we do have, this website called Berkshire Benchmarks. If you just Google that, you
Okay.
can go to Stockbridge, or you can go to any of the towns
Okay.
and compare it to the county. You can compare them against other, towns in the state. It's just a really, really nice website.
It just seems to me like accessory dwelling units, you know, the almost, you know, the intention, generally speaking, is to create something affordable. But maybe I'm making a leap of faith there, you know.
oh, I'm, again, I want to make sure it's something we need and want.
Yeah.
All right, so we started off talking about our goals.
Quickly we divert.
Sorry to be a killjoy. But, you know, so why don't, you know, there's some questions. So why doesn't everybody, you know, think about that? And if you can get that information, as soon as I have that information, then I'll send that around to the board so that, or Mike can send it around. So you're still reporting to Mike, so that's great.
Yep.
And we'll, you know, then we'll have that before the next meeting. Does that sound good, everyone? Okay.
And how many applications have we even had for accessory dwelling
Yeah, I
units?
mean, that's the thing. This is all supposed to go through the planning board currently. I've never seen one.
I was gonna say, so how many? I don't know.
Is there a need for it?
It's, I think in the table of uses, it's planning board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've never had one. So,
Never?
But we're allowed to have like a two-family house, I mean, what they call
well, there's
family,
wordings,
Yeah.
without, I mean, by right, I mean, you can have an apartment in your house, correct, now?
I'd have to look at the,
Or
Yeah,
at least,
in
and
an
they call
owner,
it two-family?
in
I
an
mean,
owner
it's
occupied.
called in our current table of uses, it's not called accessory dwelling unit, it's called accessory
Two-family.
uses.
It's
And
it's called what?
it's called accessory uses. So you see on page, starting on page 21, we've got residential uses, and it goes through one family, multifamily. And then on the next page, section 4.4, that's page 20, top of page 22. Conversion of
conversion.
accessory structure existing before January 1, 1990. So
So is there, are we having a problem with this bylaw as is? Is there something that we're not getting the best of, or why, what is the advantage we're making of doing a ADU bylaw? Is there a
I would
good
say the
reason?
advantage is that, well, is that we're adding a narrative into the bylaw so that it's a little clearer for somebody who's interested in doing this. And we're probably going to make some changes to it as well to make
I
it
mean,
a
as
little
Wayne
bit.
said, is we need to be sure we need to do what there's a need for what we do. And my
Yeah,
question
no.
is this really different from what we seem to have here? Or is it just making it more legal, or is it?
This is definitely what Kara has done so far is
Yes.
definitely different from what we have. So it's making it much more possible for people to do this.
Okay,
And just the date itself is by removing the date,
right,
you're making it more possible.
right.
So, you know, but these are things that we're going to need to think about because as Mike pointed out to me.
Yep.
In Egremont, this has just become a way for, you know, people with very large homes to make them larger. And so, you know, this is something that we're going to need to think about. Okay, we have to look at the pros and cons.
Something for somebody with a very large home to make it larger is,
This is what has apparently happened in Egremont.
Not just Egremont, other.
So there-
You can add 800, well, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we're gonna say the same thing. There are towns with varying square footage allotments. you know,
Right.
Built into either their tables or their bylaws or both. I think the example of Egremont, because you share a building inspector, he's
right.
very
yeah,
aware
yes, I
of
know Ned, yeah.
comparisons. And there's language that differs, you can, half of your primary structure is what you can build your ADU, a maximum of 900 square feet. It's from A to Z, and there are instances where people are,
Just doing it.
if it is 50% of your primary structure and your structure's, your house is 4,000
Yeah.
square feet.
Right.
You have another house,
Yeah.
you can put 2,000 square feet back there.
So we
Or
have
up there.
900 as ours.
Right.
That's a very
That's-
limiting factor,
That's just.
right?
That's one way that the size can be
Okay.
Okay.
definitely controlled. So that's the planning board,
Yeah,
decision.
that's,
Yeah.
So an
We
ADU would
talked
either
about this,
be
yeah.
in the house or in an existing structure, or can they put up another structure at 900 square feet?
That's another planning board decision. Yeah, so
I didn't
there's detached and there's
Right,
attached.
right.
So obviously attached.
So they can
detached,
put a
Be over
tiny house.
garage.
And
Good,
there's,
but if you're looking at an older person, if they're trying to build something smaller and not in the house because the kids are there and they want quiet,
Building a whole
will they be
house.
able to do that?
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing is that we want to sort of have it very clearly defined and have some safeguards in place to make sure this isn't.
Yeah, when you look at the definition.
Okay.
I think some of the examples given that we've heard is, somebody says, yeah, I'm building for my mom, and then, the accessory dwelling unit. And then the mom never, well,
Never shows up.
never shows up, and now they've just expanded the.
It's a rental unit.
they either rent it
And without
out
an
or.
active permit,
Promising.
without an active permit on a single family home, we actually don't have a right to enter somebody's private property.
Building details.
So, this goes back to, I know I was listening to one of your discussions about, whether the planning board would go and check.
I remember that one.
No, you guys can't just walk on, and the only time the building inspector can is when there's an active permit on
Yeah.
a single family or residential home. Yeah, there can be a violation, but even if they go to the house and even somebody sees sheetrock outside and the person goes, a couple got wet in the bottom or whatever, it's hard. I mean, it can be very difficult. So that, you have the person that claims, my mom's moving in, never does. They expanded it and now it's a game room or something else on the attached garage above, and now they're just using it as additional living space. Those are some of the things you just gotta think about. That,
Possible.
and that goes back to what I was trying to think of with that affordable part. How do we enforce that down the road?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
might be able to enforce that at the initial, but how do you keep enforcing? And if it's and it sells to somebody else, if it's not a deed restriction or something else that's being placed on the property, it's not gonna transfer with the next owner. So how do you make sure? That goes back to, I think one of the goals should be that this is something that's verifiable and enforceable.
Okay,
Definitely.
definitely, yeah.
Yep, that's
Okay.
But we'd have to put a deed restriction on there?
I don't know. I just said that as how do you? And
Oh,
that's what we have to think about. If we can't, then you have to understand that risk. If you do allow somebody to expand and they say the mom's moving in, but never does, and it becomes a game room for the house, are you okay with that? Because that could happen, and that's gonna be, what level of enforcement do we have? And then, we'll know what we can verify, what we can enforce. And then you guys have to decide, is that acceptable? Or,
And not to be, not to sound too stupid, but, are we just talking specifically about rentals, or, are these like potentially condominiums, that you can like sell?
Yeah, I was
part of
thinking
their house.
rentals.
It's not on a separate piece of property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be a rental.
Yeah, okay, but that's something you said where, yeah, okay.
And that's where owner occupancy can come in.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Owner occupancy.
Yeah.
Another question that I don't want to look stupid, but if somebody did build an ADU, thinking mother was going to come or didn't and didn't, and then it becomes part of their house, and they use it, is that not legal? What's the
no,
problem with putting on an addition
Right.
to your house that thought you were going to rent, but you don't? Do we have regulations against that?
Well, that's what
Is that a
Karen was
problem?
saying, where you might have owner occupied or not,
I mean, does it matter? Can't we make our houses?
And you're right, it doesn't matter as long as the board is okay with the idea that somebody just used it to say maximum lot cover or, something else gets trumped by them being able to.
Maximum lot
Sex
coverage
truck.
thing?
We have to make sure all the
Okay, I
pieces
get
fit
that.
together.
I mean, it could easily flop over into another piece of zoning.
Yeah,
Okay, I understand, but I was like,
yeah.
geez, you can make your
So
house.
somebody just found a way to expand their house that they
Right.
couldn't have when they originally built it.
Okay, if you couldn't do it
Now the
otherwise.
ADU's allowing them to add this.
I
You
understand.
don't want it to become a loophole, basically.
Yeah.
No,
But the-
I just,
Yeah, but the ADU can't trump
No.
the existing zoning.
No, it can't.
Right, and that's what we have to make sure, that it's
Yeah.
not, then there's also the issue, was it the ADU that there's also, or was that the multifamily? With the additional lot size?
Oh, that was
That
multifamily.
was,
That's
forget it.
that's a whole.
We'll stay away from that one for now.
Yes, please,
All
thank
right,
you.
so I think, we've made headway here.
Yep.
Do you have any questions for the board?
Not right now.
Okay, so.
Have her come back for the first meeting in, do you guys want a regular schedule? I think the position should come once a month. Maybe not to both, because 2 weeks might not be, but I think at least once a month should
Yeah,
come to
did
you
anybody-
guys.
Yeah, once a month is good.
update where it's at.
Why don't you come to the next, do we have any special permits coming up?
has to enforce our bylaws, that's his job.
I don't know what you,
Yeah, he's
Jen,
got-
do you know if the
get a permit.
board's
They've got to
facing
get a
it?
permit.
I know the select board has a couple of special permits coming, but I don't know if the planning board does.
Yeah, I just got it, on Monday, so,
We do have one coming up
yeah, I don't know,
Okay.
it will probably be in July.
in July.
I don't think I can do it in the next 2 weeks.
What are we doing?
So what's your
Ask her
pleasure?
if
Do
something
you
new is
feel
coming
like
up. I think she's.
in the
putting
next
time
2
for-
weeks is enough time for you
To check out.
to do what you need to do here?
2 weeks? Yeah, I do. Yeah, we got the 20.
21st?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, we want to keep moving, right?
yep, we've got momentum right now.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so
Great.
it'll be on the agenda for the 21st, and as soon as you have any, send it to Mike, so we can get it around to the
Yeah.
board. Great.
Thanks, everyone. See
Oh, thank you,
you
Carol.
on the 21st.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Did I leave?
All right,
I don't
so
have that one. I
I
got this.
think that's it. We don't have any other business category, I don't think so.
And I guess this is just a cleaned up copy of that, but I didn't get this. This is one
I didn't
that Kara gave me. But Wayne has printed his out and
It's
you have
online, you
one.
got yours.
So it's there somewhere. I just printed out the 6.
Yeah, I don't think I went back to June first.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I just say, agenda, for next agenda? I think we need to, speaking of finishing, following up, I think we need to continue with the Concom and the LPOD thing.
Yeah,
It
let
was
me,
left, I
didn't
believe
finalize
that Bill
that, no.
was, we didn't finalize anything. Concom seemed in favor of it. Bill was going to ask Donna Brewer
Oh, that's right.
so
something.
I'll follow up on that, and.
And yeah, because we need to get that going too.
No, those conversations started, but they were not concluded.
Yeah,
And then there was some question, and he was going to call Donna. Bill was going to call Donna about, do you remember what that was? He was going to call Donna
It's
about.
not necessarily our choice just to
Knew
make,
somebody in
it
the
has to
Attorney
go
General's
to the
office,
state.
and she was going
Oh,
to
yeah.
notify
To
them.
see how you go about doing it.
It would pass through the.
Right, if we could do it easily or something, how you go about
right.
doing it, right? I mean, what you had to do. I think that's what she was.
Gary?
I know,
Oh, well, when we did the stormwater,
right.
first we wanted to make sure that they wanted it. So once they were good with wanting it, then we had, and if we're good to let it go, then we would go to the select board.
Yeah, I said-
And ask to be on the, town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Town has to vote it.
right, but I
And then
think
it goes to the legislature, I think, right?
Attorneys General.
I think it's Attorney General.
Or attorney, yes, yes. And if they okay it, then we're good.
Yeah. So I think we
You have to
should,
have a public
I
meeting.
think we should basically, we would need to have
Yeah,
a
public
public
hearing.
meeting.
A public hearing, yeah.
And I think this is, I will follow up on that question, Marie.
I think we need to move that, just keep it going.
Definitely. I do want, one thing I would like for us to do in our agenda is have them be, some of the agenda, in my opinion, have been a little bit too long. So, I'd like.
Summer, it's nice.
Yeah, but some of the
We could be out after 8 o'clock.
Right, biking.
Glad you feel.
And I think we need stuff.
So I've got it down. I made note of it. So, and I know we do need to, so I'll follow up on that. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll have an update for y'all at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay. One other thing on the LPOD.
Yep.
I think we need to decide, and if it's through, whether we want to do any changes to it, or do we want to wait, give it to the Concom and let them make the changes to it?
I would look at Concom.
yeah, if we're gonna.
Yeah, okay, sure, just,
Yeah. I mean, if we
They probably have opinions on it. They know.
oh, yeah.
You know.
They're the one, if they're going to own it, then that's fine, yeah.
Just as an aside to that, I know we talked about the possible benefits of having two boards look at that, not have it all be in conservation or us. Was it beneficial to have two different people looking at it, two different boards looking at it? I'm just remembering that as part of the
Yeah, we did
conversation.
talk about it. Then we talked about a bunch of redundancy with both boards looking at the same
let them
thing.
do it.
And the people were playing us, oh, well, the Concom said it was okay.
It's
You know.
already, as it is, it's already with two boards, and that the select board has a whack at it too. So I think, Concom and select board.
I'm good with it.
Okay, good.
I am.
All right, so can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.